Hello and welcome to this mini masterclass with Tom Hart. Tom is president of the One Campaign, and he's actually their longest serving member of staff. He's been there for 20 years. And over that time, One has been arguably the most impactful advocacy group in the USA on international development. Tom and his team have advocated successfully for billions of dollars in poverty fighting assistance, and he's been right at the heart of the advocacy that successfully pushed for the launch of things like PEPFAR, the global fund to fight AIDS, TB and malaria, and also the groundbreaking Millennium Challenge Corporation. Before being at One, Tom was also central to the Jubilee 2000 campaign in the USA, which persuaded President Clinton to cancel billions of dollars of debt of the lowest income countries in the world. And before that, Tom actually worked in the belly of the beast on Capitol Hill. It's a great pleasure to be joined by Tom. And who better to ask, what are your top tips on influencing the United States Congress?
Thanks, Ollie. Great to be here. My top tips are the advocacy golden rule: meet people where they are, not where you think they should be. Secondly, be clear on what they can do and then give them credit. And last, meet with skeptics and opponents often.
Fantastic. Great tips. So what did you mean by meet people where they are?
Well, like I said, I think that's the advocacy golden rule. We can't let passion for our issues that we've dedicated our lives or our free time to get in the way of persuasion. We're already convinced of our rightness, but we got to remember that others aren't. We often use jargon and overcomplicate things, especially for members of Congress who have a million issues to deal with. They actually have relatively small staffs and budgets. They are covering a zillion things. We can become experts for them, but we have to be able to bring them on that journey. And we also need to give them political cover. Sometimes I call it creating political space for them to take a risk and join with us in supporting whatever we're working on. We should anticipate their questions. Be open about the potential criticisms if they join us. What is the political cover? Like, could we get members from the other political party? Can we get experts that they trust to weigh in, other influencers? Can we get them credit back home from their grassroots voters? Build an interesting, diverse coalition. This all creates the space and helps them go from where they are today to where we want them to be in supporting us.
Really, really interesting stuff. Thank you. And your second point was be clear what they can do. So what did you mean by that?
Well, this may seem obvious for experienced advocates. We're coming in with solutions all the time, but I hear all the time from members of Congress that people come in and simply present problems. They're not really sure what can be done, and sometimes feel the members of Congress and staff are the experts in what legislation could be done, and that just isn't the case. When you can come in and offer, here's a practical policy solution, and here's what you can do to help us move it forward. You have to really understand where that particular member of Congress's position is in the Congress. If they sit on the right committee, for example, they could introduce legislation, or they could co-sponsor someone else's bill. If you're looking for funding to fight AIDS or help with girls' education, you could ask them to write to the Appropriations Funding Committee, or if they're on that committee, talk to the chairman. So it's really important to understand what position they hold and what they can do to affect it, and then do the homework for them. Offer them a draft letter, offer them talking points or a one-pager. And then after that, after they take one step, thank them. Do something worthwhile. You'd be surprised how few people thank members of Congress. They almost always are managing complaints, and then build on that. Once they write a letter, ask them to do a small speech. Once they do a small speech, maybe they will write a piece for their local newspaper. There are ways to take them along the advocacy journey along with you.
That makes complete sense. But then your third point was meet often with skeptics and opponents. That sounds like painful and hard work. Why should we do that?
Maybe because it's painful and hard work. That's what we all need to do. Eat our spinach, I guess. Look, we all love to talk to people who agree with us. It's really satisfying. But almost no partisan legislation becomes law in the US. If you just talk to the party or the members of Congress that agree with you, you're very unlikely to get the bill passed. Congress actually passes an average of 200 bills a year. Nearly all of them are bipartisan. And that's meant that hard conversations have had to happen on both sides, and often tough compromises had to be made. Unlike parliaments, which many of your listeners may be more familiar with, it's quite easy to stop things in the U.S. Congress. And active opposition is most often deadly. You'll need at least your non-supporters and skeptics to acquiesce, to finally just sort of let go of their opposition. And so I've found it really interesting and critical to the strategy to know what they are thinking and potentially saying to others about the issue that we're advocating. And who knows, they might actually have a point that you want to take on board. Having your opponents and skeptics feel like they've made a difference and been heard really makes a huge difference.
Insightful stuff. Thank you so much, Tom. As you know, we're asking everyone who records a mini masterclass to recommend one piece or two pieces of reading or watching or listening. Tell us what yours are.
Well, recently, one of my favorite books is called Influence is Your Superpower by Zoe Chance. She's a professor at Yale. She actually teaches a class on influence, and it was so popular that she decided to crystallize it into a book, and it's just full of great advice, from influencing your kids to eat their dinner to trying to get legislation passed. It's just a fantastic read and a pretty quick one. And a golden oldie I have here, it's called Hardball, and it was written by Chris Matthews. For those of you who watch American media know he's hosted a show for many, many years called Hardball. It was based on this book. There are lots of things that will feel really dated, but the advice about, working with your champions, engaging your opponents, understanding the systems that you're trying to influence is just really has stood the test of time for me, and I offer it to your listeners as well.
Thanks so much, Tom. Great suggestions. And thank you so much, Tom Hart, President of One, for taking the time to talk with us today. And thank you, everyone who's watching. Please do share this video if you liked it. And also, if you have any questions, please just send them in. Thanks very much.